Hello.
It's time for another Windsor Four.
So, Matthew, what are we reading today?
Well, my good chum, tonight we are in Ossium. This is the big one. Fighting the Druge. It's been a long time coming. Let's hope it's a good one.
Let's rock and roll.
Stirring dull roots with spring rain. A grim miasma of fear still hangs over Ossium. It is weakened in the vicinity of the Golden Causeway, but elsewhere in the territory it erodes the mortal spirit. The presence of the Knights of Glory helps a little, but it is a constant numbing assault on the will to fight of the Imperial troops here. The land itself seems to contribute to the sense of hopelessness. The muddy fields, the twisted, overgrown forests, the beaten down faces of the Druge serfs all serve as a constant reminder that this is the world as the Druge see it. Hopeless, fearful, treacherous, when death might come at any moment without warning. Some are able to overcome the uncertainty it causes with the aid of Liao, others through the blood of summer, but primarily its effects are fought with constant vigilance. Comrades watch one another for signs that despair is taking hold, ensuring that those whose defences are crumbling receives the aid that they need to help them fight off the spiritual rot that presses down on the Druge territory. Into this sea of darkness and dread march the armies of dawn. Between them, the eastern sky, golden sun, Griffin's pride, and hounds of glory number some 18,000 Dornish nobles and yeofolk. For all the mud, for all the omnipresent threat of ambush, sickness and death, their banners remain bright. Gold and azure, crimson and emerald, sable and argent. Their armour may have a few more dents, but it still shines under the mud. Their horns still greet the dawn and the dusk, heralding the new day and offering comfort as the night creeps in. At their side, 12,000 knights from the tawny fields of Eleonaris. Ossium, the mud, the Druge, the darkness, the threat, all of these seem irrelevant to the heralds of the Summer Realm. Their spirits seem unquenchable, infectiously so. They seem almost unaware of the constant thrumming undercurrents of fear, seem deaf to the brittle voices that whisper, "You cannot succeed. You are weak. You are worthless." Crimson and gold, the bottom helms of their surcoats may be just as mud-splattered as those of their mortal allies, but their thirst for victory remains undiminished. In a way, their presence helps those who might otherwise succumb to the horrors of Ossium. Their rock-hard certainty is that they cannot help but accrue glory simply by taking the fight to the Druge. At night, their encampments are well lit and welcoming, and it seems the knights of the Summer Realm are never short of good cheer and echoing laughter. Perhaps more than anyone else in the Northern Empire, the 5,000 Varushkan soldiers with the golden axe are familiar with fear. Some joke that Ossium is a home away from home. The Druge ambushes no different to the threat of being eaten by a wolf, or a seemingly innocuous Mora robbed in another's skin. Some of them eye the eastern forest with a glint in their eye. Ancient hardwoods that seem never to have known the bite of an axe are a treasure all too easily overlooked by their allies, focused as they are on conquest and glory. where the Dornish and their supernatural friends face the miasma with stout hearts and shows of bravado, the Golden Axe turns to strong drink, black humour, and stories about how much worse Varushka is than Ossium. That said, the Golden Axe are not without their own magical allies. They arrive 3 days after the autumn equinox. Some are soldiers in heavy armour, attired as Schlachter with great axes. Rather than being dour, they are ebullient and effusive in character, establishing a quick camaraderie with their new Varushkan allies. They bring with them barrels of mead brewed in the summer realm, which they share freely, and a mouthful of this fine liquor helps to steady the nerves of those most affected with the miasma. Alongside them travel several warbands of slight humanoids with the heads of eagles. They carry bows and wear light leather armour and hooded jerkins. Their manner is much quieter. Messengers and scouts from the armies of the Lady of the Fields of Red and Gold. Their keen sight and stout hearts complement their cynicism and woodcraft of many in the Golden Axe. Shortly after the autumn equinox, a magical messenger from the north confirms that the Thule, now allied with the military council, are ready to move. The orders are given, the banners raised, the horns blown. In some ways, the northern orcs are likely to face more significant obstacles than the Imperials. The Dornish and Varushkan armies established a foothold in Ossium before the autumn equinox that allows them to more readily supply their troops. They are not the only force entering Ossium from the west. The 3 families of Morshvar have secured the aid of a dozen band of wagon raiders to bring valuable mining supplies to Lorma. Hungry to begin extracting precious ores from the mithril mine beneath the town. With the enthusiastic aid of the Quetzov humans, the Varushkan representatives bargain with the former Druge mine slaves, eager to secure a workforce used to labouring in poor conditions in return for imperial coinage. As the Thule cross the border from Karsk, from Kravasti, into the northern Bonewood, all 5 imperial armies march directly east, out of the Galath fields, and into the woods of Echofell. The hounds of glory are off the leash. They lead the way, their hunger for battle with the Druge, for the glory that waits in the shadow of the eastern woods, can barely be contained as they quickly pull ahead of the other 4 armies. The eastern sky and the Griffin's Pride are little more restrained, but not by much. The 2 golden armies, Axe and Sun, bring up the rear, constantly alert for Druge ambushes. The conquest of the first new imperial territory since the reign of Emperor Barabbas begins in earnest. As the armies begin to march, though it becomes clear that the Druge, caught by surprise by the attack across the Golden Causeway, have begun to take steps to slow the imperial invasion. There were already reports that the forests along the edges of the Galath fields and the Bittershore were being infused with malign sorceries, roused to hateful, deadly awareness by the magicians of the Druge, although not the Echofell itself, interestingly. In the aftermath of the autumn equinox, there are other signs of powerful magics at work in Ossium. The weather begins to worsen. Black clouds spill across the sky and torrential rain begins. Within 6 hours of the rain beginning, the rivers of Ossium are swollen to the extent of breaking their banks. Tents are washed away. The makeshift road, barely maintained by the orcs of the Malum, become little more than muddy runnels. Movement slows to a crawl. Every mile of advance is a test of human endurance. made ever worse by the omnipresent atmosphere of despair. Soldiers begin to catch colds, some quite serious. Fires become difficult to light, and hot food a luxury. Everything becomes waterlogged, yet even this is not enough to entirely dampen the Dornish spirit. The enthusiasm for the battles to come and the grim Varushkans of the Golden Axe simply become even more given to mordant black humour and drink. The rain slows the armies of the Empire, but it does not stop them. What it does do, however, is buy the defenders of Ossium some time for reinforcements to arrive from elsewhere in the Malum. The forest environment makes it difficult to determine precisely how many defenders are in the Echofell. The first troops the massed forces of the Empire encounter bear familiar symbols, marks and tattoos of amber scorpions and twisted leering orc faces. They have the advantage of the terrain, they know the woods well, they attack from ambush, inflict as much injury as they can and then retreat. Wounds fester quickly in the sodden woods of the Echofell, even without the aid of the poisons that the Druge guerrillas take so much delight in. It is near impossible to keep dressings dry. Sickness becomes a constant threat, even without the presence of more malign spring magic, such as the Eastern Orcs are wont to use. The Empire knows there is a Druge fortress in the Echofell, but locating it proves to be a challenge. The Druge know the woods and are at great pains not to have a trail for Imperial scouts to follow back to their nest. The Empire is forced to scour the woods, and they are deep and dark and dangerous. Trees that have never known the touch of an axe loom overhead, while twisted roots would make footing precarious even without the omnipresent rain. The Golden Axe are the first to discover one of the Druge secrets. A chance encounter that leaves a dozen dead Varushkans and half that number of dead orcs uncovers a series of camouflaged rope bridges hung between the trees, concealed by leaves and branches. Investigation indicates that the bridges are only a tiny part of a vast network of similar structures that seem to spread almost across the entirety of Echofell. Useless for an army, they allow the Amber Scorpion garrison to move quickly and stealthily wherever they wish, launching their attack and then fading into darkness again. Here and there, through the Echofell, there are orc settlements. While a number resemble the tragic clusters of hovels the Imperial conquerors have encountered in Bittershore and Galath fields, the further east they push, the fewer of these ramshackle villages are encountered. Rather, they begin to come across walled and camouflaged settlements protected by spike-filled ditches and devious, crippling traps. There are significantly fewer humans here than were encountered in Bittershore and Galath fields, and none have a status anywhere close to that of the Quetzal. The orcs who populate the villages here wear their amber scorpion marks with something approaching pride. They are quick to take up arms when they encounter Imperial troops, and quick to withdraw when it is clear they are outnumbered. Some surrender. And while a few settlements remain docile, others simply bide their time until the armies of the Empire have pushed on and turn on any garrison left behind to secure their village. After the third time this happens, soldiers of the Golden Axe in particular begin to question the wisdom of accepting any surrender from the Druge. Safer to simply kill everyone than to leave a treacherous army behind. Their fellows in the Golden Sun, who likewise are responsible for consolidating territorial gains made by the Imperial advance initially, resist any such suggestions, but as the campaign draws on, such expedient atrocity perhaps becomes more appealing. There is also surprising wealth amidst the trees of the Echofell. Every Druge settlement, it seems, tends to a stretch of woodlands rich in ambergelt and beggarwood, with less common but equally rich deposits of dragonbone encountered here and there. Almost every settlement maintains a fertile herb garden, begungened with exotic plants of a mundane nature, as well as magical herbs of almost every variety. Only cerulean mazarine seems in short supply, favouring as it does a warmer, drier environment in which to grow. While there is little in the way of mineral wealth, the orcs here are experts at working with wood and rope and leather and bone. Within a month, with half the Echofell fallen to the Empire, the leading edge of the eastern sky finally locates the stronghold of the Amber Scorpion clan. A great tower of white granite, surrounded by a wall topped with twisted metal razors, stands in a great open, churned mud-killing field littered with shallow pools, now significantly deeper from a month of rain. A web of rope bridges extends from wooden towers under the shadow of the walls. There is no likelihood of surprise attack. The Golden Axe and the Golden Sun swiftly begin to construct siege ladders from the plentiful wood, while the Eastern Sky and the Griffin's Pride prepare to attack the two iron-bound gates to the north and south of the Great Tower. 3 days later they are ready to move, shields raised to protect from arrows. The siege begins. The killing ground between the edge of the forest and the Tower of the Scorpion lives up to its name. Withering hails of arrow fire from the orc defenders are only the start. It soon becomes clear that the muddy ground is crisscrossed with hidden ditches and tunnels lined with spikes. Under the torrential rain, many have become flooded death traps. Those who avoid being impaled on spikes risk drowning under the weight of their armour. Climbing out of the pits alone proves almost impossible, but freeing trapped comrades before they die exposes allies to attacks from the orcs. One advantage the torrential rains have offered, however, is that it has prevented the Druge lying in ambush. Some of the subterranean constructions are clearly bolt holes intended to allow numbers of defenders to attack from hiding. There are even some signs closer to the walls that suggest the existence of tunnels under the ground, tunnels that have collapsed due to the water rushing through them. The orc defenders are desperate, but they are outnumbered 10-1. Despite their efforts, the first siege ladders are secured, the first Imperials crest the walls. A battering ram is brought to bear on each of the gates, and with the Imperial focused entirely on taking the fortification, the rest of the Druge attack from the woods. 10,000 or more Druge soldiers, many bearing scorpion motif banners or with stylized scorpion claws painted on their armour, attack the Imperial flanks. They strive to be the hammer, crushing as many of their enemies as possible against the stone anvil of the Tower of the Scorpion. They strike quickly, withdraw, and strike again. The mud works against them, however, just as it works against the Empire. Their armour is generally lighter, and they are clearly more familiar with operating in the quagmire than the killing field has become. But it slows them down. The Imperial commanders are forced to split their attention between taking the fortification and fighting off the Druge ambushes. The Hounds of Glory rally first. Horns blaring, they regroup and turn their attention on the newcomers. "Death to the Druge," they cry. The cry goes up from 1,000 throats at once. At the same time as the Eastern Sky, finally seeing the opportunity to engage the hated Malamorks on something approaching an even footing, raise their banners and charge back across the killing field towards the woods. Turning their backs entirely on the fortress, trusting to the other armies to protect their rears, they move to engage the orc armies and leave their allies to take the castle. With the time bought by the hounds and the sky, the Griffin's Pride and Golden Axe are able to make short work of the gates. The Golden Sun siege ladders have allowed them to capture the western ramparts, giving them the sudden advantage of the high ground. As the Dornish and Varushkan forces break across the courtyard, the Golden Sun manage to capture 2 of the collapsible bridges that allow access to the tower proper. Following vicious close-quarters fighting, in which many brave soldiers fall to poison drag daggers, they take control of one of the mechanisms that open the iron gates into the Tower of the Scorpion, and allow the other 2 armies access to the keep itself. As soon as it is clear the tower has fallen, the Druge forces outside the castle break and flee. They have little interest in fighting a losing battle, it seems, and withdraw quickly. Over the next several days, a running battle ranges across the Echofell as the Imperial forces harry, and are in turn harried by the Druge defenders. With the Tower of the Scorpion in Imperial hands, the conquest of the Echofell proceeds more swiftly. At the same time, however, it becomes clear that there are a significant force of Druge now in the forests of Ossium. They strike without warning, as is the Druge way, and it is almost impossible to predict where the next attack will come from. Between Echofell and the Bonewood stretches an area of forest the local orcs refer to as the Webwood. It is here that the Imperial forces turn next. The Druge continue their ambushes as the Imperials press north, and as they continue to consolidate their hold on the Echofell. News is that the Thule have encountered resistance of their own in their conquest of the Bonewood, and it becomes clear that the Druge are being forced to split their attention between 2 forces, unable to focus on one side of the alliance or the other. It is easy to see how the forest gets its name. The ancient trees are draped in moss and shrouded in vines, yet it is not solely the vegetation that is responsible for its dark reputation. The trees are home to several particularly unpleasant breeds of large, venomous spiders, some as large as a small dog. They seem to have little actual fear of human or orc, and in fact seem to be drawn to warm, dry places, such as the inside of tents. Yet these spiders are a purely natural problem. The Webwood is home to something else. In addition to the orcs of the Malum, the Empire begins to face attacks from creatures that appear to be nothing so much as a hybrid of orc and predatory arachnid. At first, the creatures strike fear into the hearts of the Imperial soldiers, but eventually a priest with the eastern sky is able to identify them as heralds. Almost certainly servants of the Spider King, Arhalajan. Regardless of what they are, they prove to be tenacious opponents. Their every strike delivers agonizing venom. Some possess the ability to paralyze with a touch, while a very few, the largest and most twisted variety, are able to spew great gouts of venom that burn their foes or leave them weakened and barely able to fight. They do not attack in numbers, but fight alongside the Druge, who seek to slow Imperial progress through the woods. Interrogation of local orcs reveals that somewhere in the depths of the Webwoods is a hidden temple, a monster-haunted shrine that has stood since before the first Druge came to Ossium. It is from this nest, sacred to the Scorpion Lord, that the heralds come. A circle of Druge magicians and Tepal make offerings here, securing the aid of the sinister Eternal. Few will speak of it above a whisper, and its location is not known to the common orc of Ossium. The spider beasts and the orcs are not the only threat. The forest itself seems possessed of a malignant awareness and a desire to harm the Imperial invaders. Trees, bushes, and vines weave together into defensive structures, easily exploited by the orcs, yet providing no shelter to Imperial soldiers. Great thickets of thorn and briar twist between the trees, and in several places masses of branches and roots mesh together to create massive thick walls of living vegetation. The forest actively aids the Druge and their allies, hindering the invaders, yet parting to allow the swift passage of the orcs. Druge forests are always a dangerous proposition, but the magic conspires to exasperate the natural threats. In places, the air becomes thick with poisonous spores, drifting clouds that cause terrifying visions or threaten to strangle those exposed to them. Open wounds caused by briars or thorns quickly become infected, potentially leading to fever and even death. Insects become larger and more hostile, and any wasp or bee sting is likely to result in painful swelling rather than a mere nuisance. While vegetation does not move when anyone is looking, trails and clearings often seem to vanish overnight. Several bands of scouts are simply swallowed up in the wilderness, their disappearance marked only by a few bloodstains, a few scraps of cloth, or a solitary boot half sunk in some stinking quagmire. Witches agree with Volov that the Druge have raised an enchantment similar to forge the wooden fastness over the webwood. But like all their magic, it is particularly malignant in character compared to the rituals of Imperial law. There are fewer settlements here than in Echofell, but they tend to be larger. Reasonably well fortified palisades and walls of spikes, it is not uncommon to encounter great walls surrounding acres of land with more than one small village. Most of these settlements are proudly marked as the property of the Amber Scorpion, but not all. Most fight viciously against the Imperial advance, but some are inclined to negotiate. The pounding, relentless rain is slowly taking its toll on the orcs of Ossium, it seems. Food supplies are beginning to run a little low, and it seems a hungry Druge easily yields to the temptation to look after their own family first. Loyalty is in short supply in the forests of Ossium. Yet despite the obstacles, the Empire slowly dominates the Webwood as it has dominated Bittershore, Galath Fields, and the Echofell. As the winter solstice draws closer, the frequency of encounters with orc warbands begin to slacken off. The Druge, it seems, are withdrawing south out of Webwood and out of the Bonewood. There is renewed violence in the Echofell as Druge warriors rally and attempt one last assault, but with the Empire now controlling the only fortification, that counterattack is short-lived. After 3 months of horror, it becomes clear that the Druge have largely retreated into the southern forests to regroup. The rain begins to slacken. The commanders of the Imperial armies receive word from the north that the Thule have completed the pacification of the Bonewoods and are declaring complete dominance of the woods. The tone of the message is congratulatory. The Thule commanders are well pleased not only with their own success but with the victories of their Imperial allies. There have been significant losses on both sides. The Empire has lost around 1,000 soldiers. The exact numbers are still being calculated. Many of those lost warriors fell under Druge blades, but perhaps 200 or more are simply unaccounted for. Sentries who disappeared into the night, scouts and bands of knights who simply never returned from the woods. It is impossible to know how many the Thule have lost. they are close-lipped on the matter. But rumours circulating among the Varushkans is that they brought 30,000 orcs into Ossium out of cask, and there are whispered reports that they have lost at least as many as the Empire. Some of those rumours come from human slaves. 3 weeks before the solstice, a Thule warband marches south from Kravasti and unceremoniously delivers nearly 150 terrified humans into the hands of the surprised people of Iversgard. These apparently represent Imperials enslaved by the Druge over the last 30 years, forced to labour in the weirwood forest of Bonewood. The Thule offer no further explanation and return to their holdings in the north. As to the Druge, it is hard to say for certain, but it certainly appears that the former orc rulers of Ossium have been slaughtered. Their Tower of the Scorpion has been taken, and while an exact tally of their losses will probably never be made, there are thousands of orc corpses littering the western forests of Ossium. And so a fortnight before the winter solstice, the conquest of Webwood and Echofell is complete. Along with the Galath Fields and the Bittershore, the Empire now controls 4 regions of Ossium. The Thule control the Bonewood, and the Druge still cling to their fingerhold in the southern forests. But there is no doubt that the Empire now controls the majority of the territory. Ossium becomes the first new territory to be added to the Empire in 200 years.
Well,
Oh, this is the first new territory we have gained since we conquered Segura.
I mean, I'm more worried about the arachnid orcs.
Oh, the horrible orc spiders.
Yeah.
Nah, they'll be all right.
Mm.
Well, they're heralds. Don't worry. What are you thinking, Andrea?
Well, Andrea's speechless.
Hang on. Does that mean that we might get a new territory? Does that mean we might have 2 senators?
Maybe.
Who knows? Anyway, thank you very much.
That's really cool.
Thank you very much for watching.
So I think it's safe to say that this is the last Wind of War.
Yeah,
And I thought that the Dubtrade one was the best.
I like that one. It was long, but yeah, I like that one. It didn't get boring or anything like that.
Ooh-wee.
That was a roller coaster
Yeah.
of a story.
Right. Well,
Who does it say wrote it? Does it say who wrote it?
It doesn't say who wrote it.
Whoever wrote that, you're incredible. I tip my hat.
well, to everyone that wrote
Yeah.
all of the stories, like they've all been incredible.
Yeah,
so,
but that one in particular.
oh, you gotta give everyone praise, man.
Yes.
But
yes.
you know,
But that was like a cut above. Like, I don't know. Maybe it's just because I'm excited
Favoritism.
about potentially getting
Um,
the territory.
right. Well, we should most probably end it because it's on about 35.
Yeah. So thank you very much for watching. Thank you if you listened to all of them. I hope they have been a useful resource if you fancied listening to these stories rather than reading them all. Or I hope they've been nice to listen to alongside reading them. Like we said before, go and check out the pages for all the game information. See all the stuff that applies to those who were involved in all these battles and fights. And
let's look forward to what is going to be an incredible first event for Empire this year.
Hell yeah.
It's going to be a good one.
Right.
And let's wait for the Winds of Fortune next.
Yes. We'll see you all
In the next one.
when they come out.
Bye-bye.
Bye.